Yet,
Here we go.
I'm asking my life.
you all.
It's gonna be one of those times I can tell.
Some things you want. like-
Oh, I'm gonna stand here so I can.
That's true.
Yeah.
And that would be one of them. that you would want.
You can share.
Not a lot of people are tonight. You want mine?
These are not plugged in past.
I know. Sure, I'll pull it up on my phone.
I'm Scott C., Mayor of the City of Cortland, having proclaimed Saturday, November 2nd, 2024 as a day in honor and celebration of the faith and service of the Catholic Daughters.
A motion to accept the proclamation. Mr. Lang, Mr. Scott, all those in favor?
Aye.
Well, they had their event this past weekend and we're able to get that to them and they were great, again, adding to the community for sure. Privilege of the floor. Do we have anybody signed for the privilege of the floor?
We do not.
Okay. Finance report. Let's bring them.
Good evening, everybody. If you want to pull out the top 2 pages of the finance report, I know there's a extended information being printed. Just if you want to take a quick look at it, you'll see the general fund, a very large negative number there. The majority of that is because we have a large number of reimbursable grants that have been spent already out of our coffers, and we have put in for the reimbursements, and we are waiting on the state of New York, and they are not fast. So do not be terrified by that number. There is a good and logical explanation for it. I just know that it's a little startling to see. Overall, our expenditures are staying in check where we need them to be. The department heads have been great working with me as we get a little tight at the end of the year. We've been working together to just make sure that we smooth out our cash flow. We've started a new process where we alternate 1 week being payroll and the other week being an AP run to pay bills. We're just trying to tighten up that process a little bit. It's for several reasons. It makes the cash flow a little predictable. It also makes sure we're paying our vendors timely, not incurring any kind of late fees, and just making sure we settle with everybody on time. So we just started working on that and it seems to be going well, and I appreciate all the help from the departments on getting that to run smoothly. There will be in the rest of the packet, when it gets up here, a summary of all the various grants and capital projects, and you'll see on that all the different funds that have been put in for reimbursement, and there's an extensive list of that. With regard to the external audit, we are still wrapping that up at this point. We had hoped it would be finished by now, but our auditors are exceptionally thorough. So we appreciate their hard work and hope they finish soon. And then I will speak later to it, the 2025 budget, the proposed draft budget has been included as well for everybody to take a look at, and we will get to that when we get down to that portion of resolutions. I have one additional thing I did want to speak to. We were contacted last week by the Fitch Rating organization. They are the organization that takes a look at all different municipalities. They take a look at where we are in our finances, and they issue the ratings every year that basically help determine how we get scored, and that determines like our interest rates when we take out money for bonds and bands. We are going to be downgraded again this year. We are going from an A+ to an A. I can give you I can hit the highlights. They did release a press release, which I can send out to everyone. But basically, this is tied back to the 21 and 22 audits. And the fact that there were losses in both of those years. And we anticipate a smaller but still negative year for 23. So some of the things that they look at that they were noting here was that the need to align spending with revenue, which we are working on with this current budget. They weren't happy that our reserves were below 5%, and the fact that the audits had been late for those years. So again, they said things that could improve is on-time audits, which is something we will definitely be working for next year. Improving our budget stability, which is something we're already working on with this budget to include our water and sewer funds. And then some of the things that we do not have control over that they also look at has to do with demographic and economic trends in the area. So those are things we cannot control. They also noted the long-term liabilities and our pension liability, which again, we don't really have control over those things. But the things we can control, balancing our budgets, getting a hold of our spending, and then making sure we get our audits done a little more timely, we will be doing in the next year. So it wasn't a particular surprise, given those previous audits that this would happen. And my hope is that we will keep it where it is here, or improve on it next year. So I'm happy to share this with anybody who's interested in it. Are there any questions?
So Director Greenwood, we have things that we don't necessarily control, like you said, pensions. A lot of state organizations, municipalities struggle with that as a concern with their ratings and audits when they come back. Same time, when it comes to city demographics, what was their concern?
Hold on,
They talked about a reduction in demographics, they also talked about the student population.
Yeah, they talked about the population overall general decrease they don't talk just about the city, they also talk about the county as well. About population decline over the last decade, they're going back, so again, not something we have a lot of control on.
Right.
What about the student population?
Talked about that.
They do mention about the student population as well,
The student is has a negative impact
Mhm.
financially
to the city.
to the city.
Yeah.
Okay.
The college student or high school?
College
The college
SUNY
students.
Cortland
Mhm.
specifically.
Have a negative effect?
In their assessment, that's the case.
That's truly interesting because most municipalities that actually have college students, this is generally, there's a positive impact.
And I would argue that as well. I don't know that, sometimes I think about the economic impact. The college is expensive, so is the hospital, so is all them, and not-for-profits don't pay taxes, a big portion of land.
Right.
However, they're a big impact. So
Yeah,
I
they're
don't
one of
know
the
what they
largest.
base that off of, so.
They're one of the largest employers in our.
Right, and they do say that it's the largest employer, and they don't tell me why they
Okay.
say these things particularly, although I did get a chance to have a phone call with them. Briefly, it's more that they say, this is what we assess, and here you go.
Okay.
So, yeah, I can forward it to you though, if you'd like to read through it.
And there's not a lot of room for the understanding of us using the financial for our construction costs, and that's why our reserves are so low, because we have to use literally use that cash flow to do that.
Did they,
So by the time we close out our bond, because it's been carried over to the financing of our road construction, which was predetermined years ago.
right,
Or is they're gonna do these projects and carry those bands over for the 3 years, so then every year we're gonna keep getting hit till we close this bond, which is next year.
right, and did they comment on the grant? The way that our grants are set up and work?
No,
Oh,
no, I did explain that the reason we had such low reserve and that the reason that they were seeing those discrepancies in terms of the cash flow were simply because we had to pay for things up front and then submit for reimbursement. And then I said, I can show you everything we've submitted for reimbursement. And they said, no, thank you.
And so did they comment,
Okay,
And the late audits,
but did they comment positively on the infrastructure
not at all,
investment?
not at all.
no,
So,
and that's, and then the other part of it is the, you know, as far as the audits, they will talk about the change in audits and we have to change our audit procedures that which extended that time period.
right, so,
They don't, but that's the problem, but I think there's always constructive criticism to add and to make better, and that's what we pull out of it.
and I do think that given all those parameters, I think we will see an improvement in the next year. We are rolling that ban next week. And it'll roll for 6 months until May when things are completed, then we'll put it into a long-term bond, so that gives us the stability on that. With the budget constructed the way we've done it, with the increases that we've considered for the water and sewer funds as well to ensure that they're meeting their costs, I don't see this being a problem next year. It's kind of hard having that conversation with them because they don't really let you explain yourself, so it's mostly just a receive only type of thing, so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So, you're welcome.
We must not be the only city that goes through this type of.
I think this is quite common. I mean,
Yeah,
and honestly, an A rating is not terrible. I mean, we'd rather be A plus or A double plus, quite frankly, but
yes.
but A is still not, it's not as if
Could be a B
we've
or
gone
C.
to it, or a D, or, you know,
Yes.
it gets much, much worse, so.
Yeah,
I would be very upset at that point, but no, it's not ideal and we will do better. But I just want to make sure that everybody was aware since it was done as a press release.
yes, thank you.
You're welcome. And that was all I had for the finance report today.
Any other questions? Thank you for that.
You're welcome.
I will jump on to the mayor's report. We had the trunk or treat and it was a relatively decent day. There was actually a lot of events that day. I think, you know, I had quite a few that day, but there was 2,500 to 3,000 kids on the street doing trunk or treat. There's education from our police department. There was cows from the campus PD brought in and with one of our local dance groups won overall. So we knocked that campus PD down with pegs, so that's okay. The fire department also did 3 other candy trunk or treat events. I think that was more impactful. I don't know what everybody saw during Halloween. I didn't feel like there was as many out as there typically was, maybe because they all got their fill from the 1890 house and some of those other fun events that they had. But the fire department assisted in 3 other trunk or treat events, and then they also did the scan the candy, the checkpoints. I stopped by one of the on the way home, I stopped by one of the officers that was doing the candy trunk or treat and said, somebody over here near Pudgy's was giving out $2 bills. So people were dumping their bags out with $2 bills in there. So I tried to find that house I could. So, but that was good. We have 2 firefighters graduating this Thursday, right?
Correct.
Thursday. So we have 2 firefighters graduating this Thursday, and we had 2 police graduating last week. Am I right on that? So 2 graduations, 4 officers.
Nice.
So that's good. And Corticus next week, speaking of needing officers, so that's gonna be a big weekend and exciting, and there's quite the agenda packed out for Friday night that starts at, I think there's some local dance groups at 6, and then the event starts at 7 near the Brew parking lot over there next to that, so that'll be fun. The Grace Space, which is the homeless center, opened yesterday, and they had like over 40 applicants come in, and which is great, that are not everyday names, which is good. And there was ongoing groups there that were helping to assist them. So we appreciate all the volunteers and everybody that helped work together to get that, the donations of food for them as well. attended a Patriot marker over here at the courthouse, and that was, a great event, and, if we get a chance, go check out that new marker that's there. Don't forget to get out and vote. I know, some of us early voted, some have voted, but I know there's a few of you here that didn't get caught on their way home, so we appreciate that. And Cordova State has one more big football game this weekend coming up, and then they're into the playoffs, so hopefully we'll be able to host a lot of the playoff games here too, so it's gonna be a good year for all the athletic teams, in SUNY Cortland. All right, so that's all I had, so we'll move over to, board reports. Ward 1.
So I want to thank Code for a lot of the work that they're doing in Ward 1. There's some houses over there that have some problems, some issues, some people who are probably taking advantage of some situations and really, bringing down the neighborhood. But honestly, Ward 1 goes with so few problems. When they do something, it's very noticeable. And I actually sat in on a quick meeting today. And what Code is doing is so proactive, and I'm sure that all the other people are seeing it. They're doing a great job. So I wanted to thank them. Halloween in Ward 1, wow, that was a lot of fun. I didn't see the numbers that we usually see, but the street, I mean, we had the Batmobile running down the street. We had Puff the Magic Dragon, which I haven't seen since I was a kid. It was 4 kids in a costume doing this thing. I mean, they had some amazing stuff. And some of the streets really get into it. People bring out their pop-ups and they put a gas fireplace in the front yard, and it's a lot of fun. So I thought that went really, really well. And I believe without incident, at least in Ward 1, it went really well. And we did see a police presence up and down the main streets, which was nice because it was good to see our police force out, just in case. And, thank goodness there was nothing over there. Last thing is, this coming weekend, this next weekend, big Veterans Weekend. There is going to be stuff here, there, and everywhere. Going to be the DAV, the Legion. There's all sorts of stuff going on. I would just encourage everybody to get out and participate. There's going to be a boot drive as a fundraiser. There's going to be a chicken barbecue. I believe there might be a second one coming in late if the Legion pulls it off. Just some really good stuff for our vets. So please get out and support all of that stuff. That's about it for me.
All right, Ward 2, Ms. Sullivan.
We've been very grateful to have a police presence in Ward 2. It's been much improved, and Halloween was pretty remarkable, despite the fact that there are 19 kids living on my block. We didn't have any trick-or-treaters, and we were all decorated too. But they went out of town. Next year, I'm gonna send them over to Ward 1.
Perfect. We have fun.
Yeah.
Send them.
I did go to the town gown committee meeting yesterday and got to hear about all of the events planned for Portable Weekend. Very impressed with the students who are in charge of coordinating those events. They're just so impressive, so professional about it. And I'm very hopeful that this will be a fun celebration for town and gown to get together and watch the game and celebrate the game. There will be food trucks downtown on Friday night, actually the whole weekend. It's gonna be blocked off between West Court and Port Watson / Tompkins, that intersection, that chunk of Main Street. And so hopefully that'll be a great time for everybody. That's it from my board.
Ward 3, Ms. Pennell.
Okay, so I have to give a shout out to DPW. If people haven't had a chance, drive down Broadway, Townley, and the intersection with Otter Creek. Because there's new fencing around the creek, much safer fencing, and it looks great. It looks so nice, Mike, and it's just, it really shines, that whole area. People are commenting. The house on the corner of Forest and Groton is continuing to get work, and that's gonna move forward, I think, quickly now. And finally, So at the corner of Elwood and Broughton Ave, about a month ago roughly, an Amazon truck hit and broke the storm drain. And the owner had just put in new sidewalks, right? And he was worried that DPW would have to dig up the sidewalks. And once again, DPW came through, put a new storm drain in, didn't touch his sidewalks. So kudos to you guys. You do a great job. And other than that, we're good.
And thank you, Ward 4, Ms. Lang.
I also wanted to mention the fence. I figured you would. The fence over the bridge, Otter Creek it's amazing. It looks fantastic. The sorority Alpha Phi will be coming on Saturday to house on Pearl Street to rake up the woman's leave. They bought their own rakes. They're very excited about this. So I bet they would, if somebody else came up with a house
They keep going,
that,
right on down the block.
yeah, that they would break them up. Unfortunately, Mike, the homeowner did not want the leaves on the side of the road, so you could use your big sucker up hose thing. She wants some,
technical term.
yes, sucker up hose thing. Yeah, so they're gonna be in bags, because that's what she wanted. At our house, we had more kids for trick or treat than we have ever had, which was nice. Let's see, I apologize for not being able to come to the budget hearings last week, but one of the things that stuck out was, Robin Comfort's 2% raise, the fact that she is working here and down at DPW and splitting her time. I would like to see her get more than a 2% raise. I think she deserves at least 5 or 6. I think 2% is just simply not enough. So, that's it.
Thank you. Ward 5, Mr. Thompson.
Three things, trick or treat this year, post-COVID. It was overwhelming almost in our ward. It was beyond back to normal. I think all the other trick or treaters that didn't do trick or treating in other wards came to our ward. We were going until about 9:30 almost, which is not, that's a little bit more than what we usually get. Leaves throughout the ward. A lot of residents have been getting their leaves to the curb. However, just as a reminder, if you live on corners and sometimes if you have a small area, try to maybe knock those leaves down so people can see around those leaves on banks. They act like fences almost. And just another comment on as a city, we might want to have a discussion on culling the deer. Mentioned it earlier to Alderman Shaw. We have a lot of deer in that ward that kind of hang out in the Brownville site. I don't know if they can be put on tables, but they might be taxidermied rather well. And there's different practices out there that the city might want to explore for that. That's what I got.
Thank you. Ward 8, Michaels.
I'm thinking that, all these dear, residents and, people that visit, that site probably have names for certain ones, so I'm sure they don't wanna see,
I have an acronym.
Like Bambi's mom.
It starts with an S and it ends with a B, especially when they jump out in the road. You guess what the middle letter is.
I also attended the town meeting last night. along with, a few others, including Katie. The mayor and myself actually had to look up this afternoon regarding the band that's scheduled to play downtown.
Oh, did you check out their music?
Yes, we did. 33 Black is something that I've never heard of before, but sounds like a real promising band for that event. So I'm hoping that it'll be a great turnout for the students. Piggybacking on something Pat had mentioned regarding Robin's input and as well as her due diligence in helping out our DPW. I think something is certainly she should be rewarded for her extra efforts in trying to rectify the issues with that department. And I'm pretty sure that Mike would concur on that.
And her therapy costs are expensive.
And they'll probably get more expensive too. So something that can be done along those lines was certainly be appreciated, knowing that there's other departments whose individuals were rewarded down the line. Regarding, we still have some issues regarding our certain residents, some PD had responded to a few calls. I still think that hopefully there's some peaceful end to this at some point. We're certainly trying to pursue all avenues to rectify this disturbance. But we also need to do our due diligence regarding let's say disturbing people in the middle of the night and not making an arrest for this individual disturbing the peace at 1:30 in the morning and 5:30 in the morning. And I'm hoping that we can pursue this if it happens again. And that's all I have for the 8th Ward. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Approval of minutes, can I get a motion to accept the minutes, Mr. Scott? Ms. Sullivan? Questions? All those in favor?
Hi.
Approved. Resolution, agenda item number 1, file proposed 2025 city budget and set public hearing.
Resolved that the common council hereby follows the resulting proposed 2025 city budget with the city clerk, who shall publish notice of its filing and an abstract in the official paper of the city. And be it further resolved that the common council will hold a public hearing on the proposed 2025 budget on November 19th, 2024 at 6 p.m. at City Hall, at which time any persons may be heard for or against any item thereof. And be it further resolved that after the public hearing and prior to adoption of the final 2025 city budget, the common council may modify items of appropriation or anticipated revenues in the proposed 2025 city budget, except appropriations required by law or for debt service. Be it further resolved that on December 3rd, 2024, during its regular scheduled meeting, the common council shall by resolution adopt the final 2025 city budget.
I'll move.
Mr. Scott?
Okay.
Ms. Sullivan? Any questions? Please,
Something I wanted to bring up, even though my absence last week, I tried to zoom in, which I was unable to, for whatever reason. Also reached out to, Beth, the Director of Finance, regarding, our police vehicles. I'm looking for clarification whether we're shooting for, 3 patrol cars or 2 patrol cars. And whether the detectives are gonna receive 1 or 2. I'm thinking of cutting 1 car each out of that budget line. We can save the city about 100,000. We've done this in the past with anticipation that the following year, sometime down the road, there may be extra money where these vehicles can be replaced. This was prior to Mayor Scott coming on board.
Yeah, and so some of the catch up that we had played during that time period was getting those cars back online, getting.
Right,
the ones,
that's
some of the
right.
ones that we still have that have transmission issues and all that, so that kind of be proactive and keep them, but I believe it was 2 and 2, am I right, Deputy Chief? It was 2 and 2 for the detective's car, and then they were at least to own. It was a better way to go with those, and the other 2 were purchases. I mean, we could, you know, by the time we get them, it might be later in the year to be able to do that, if that was the case, but I think staying on that task makes sense than getting behind like we are on our physical structure of our buildings or our infrastructure of our roads or some of those other ones. You know, we end up paying more in repair, our repair budget line paid more than it would to buy a new car. So, in some of in our K9, for example, which is one of the ones slated to replace. I think that's the honorable, but
Along Alderman Michael's, thought, have we explored lease to own through our fleet as an option as far as liquidity throughout our budget?
yeah, there's several, departments that do that, and some don't. The police, there's quite a significant cost. I think it's $18,000 right? I'm trying to remember all these numbers. $18,000 to modify a car.
Yeah.
The cage in it, the lights and the wiring and all that. So to flip that after a 2 or 4 year time period, it's almost better to get them not quite to the ground. They have value. So that we got to get out of that cycle because we're driving them into the ground and then they're to the point where they're costing us more. I don't remember the number off the top of my head. We put it in that K9 unit, but it was quite significant. We put it in a used transfer case just to get us by. So we can get this next budget year to get that car replaced.
I guess I hear what you're saying, but to outfit even that leased one is about 18,000
For patrol.
for a patrol vehicle.
Not the unmarked.
But we couldn't repurpose those? I thought that's what I heard in the last meeting, that we were gonna repurpose some of that equipment. And from an older vehicle and put it in another.
Depends on the model year of the vehicle, but sometimes the police will put it after a 3 or 4 year period, won't fit until the newer model year.
Got it.
And that's what we are now. So
Thank you.
we have to buy new K9 stuff.
Got it.
But yeah, we try to do that. If it fits the model year, it's a little easier.
Right.
But it's still, there's a cost in labor to take it out, put back in.
Right.
So I mean, and we do lease, the DPW, vehicles that they drive around, the pickup trucks are leased, and so we try to do what we can where that makes more sense, so we don't have that big outlying cost. But we could still make that amendment if that's what the body decides to do, and, you know, in our next meeting, we can make that as a motion to make that amendment to that budget. Once we start that process as it's described here, we have until December 5th to make those changes.
Right, right.
So we could do a number analysis to see what that would look like, what would be the impact of that, but I think that they were $50,000 plus the outfitting, right? So
Right.
$68,000, some number.
Well, and that's what I was getting at, what's the,
But it's just because the model years changed, that's we're out, because it has been so long. So we're model years out, so we're paying that cost, so all that should be analyzed and what it's cost.
Yes, that's correct, and that's where the council, kind of falls behind in this type of information.
Right, yep, so that's why we get those, but last week we had a. Then we couldn't get you on, so.
Yeah.
You know, situation where we had nobody else to deal with it,
Yep, I did hear about that.
Yeah. Anybody else?
Thank you.
So, move it, please.
Councilmember Scott,
I,
Councilmember Sullivan,
Aye.
Councilmember Pinello,
Aye.
Councilmember Lane,
Aye.
Councilmember Thompson,
aye,
Councilmember Michaels.
Agenda item number 2, set public hearing for proposed local law relating to property tax levy authorized established in general municipal law 3C.
Resolved that pursuant to section 3C5 of the general municipal law and section 20 of the municipal home rule law of the state of New York, a public hearing on a proposed local law to authorize the override of the tax levy limit for fiscal year 2025 shall be held on November 19th, 2024 at 6 p.m. at City Hall, at which time any persons may be heard for or against any item thereof.
I'll move it.
I'll second.
Now, Mr. Scott, again, this is not stating that we are going to move it over. That was a correction in the resolution. It is only in precautionary measure in case we have to push over for any reason, so. It's the same. Okay, move it, please.
Councilmember Scott,
Aye.
Councilmember Silliman,
Aye.
Councilmember Pinello.
Aye.
Councilmember Lane.
Aye.
Councilmember Thompson,
Aye.
Councilmember Michaels.
Aye.
Agenda item number 3, amend the 2024 adopted budget by $36,652.22.
Resolved that the city of Portland Common Council does hereby amend the 2024 city budget in the amount of $36,652.22 as outlined in the accompanying table.
I'll move.
Thank you. Any questions?
Councilmember Scott,
Aye.
Councilmember Silliman,
Aye.
Councilmember Pinello.
Aye.
Councilmember Lane,
Aye.
Councilmember Thompson,
Aye.
Councilmember Michaels.
Aye.
Agenda item number 4, authorize the implementation and funding of 100% of the cost of the Maple Ave over Otter Creek culvert replacement project, which qualified costs may be reimbursed from Bridge New York funds.
I will read a portion of the resolved statements. Resolved that the city of Portland Common Council hereby approves the Maple Ave over Otter Creek culvert replacement project. And be it further resolved that the Common Council hereby authorizes the city of Portland to pay 100% of cost of engineering, right of way, and construction work for the project or portions thereof, with the understanding that qualified costs will be reimbursed from Bridge New York funding. Be it further resolved that the sum of $2,170,000, $2,170,160 is hereby appropriated from capital reserve and made available to cover the cost of participation in the above phase of the project. And be it further resolved that the Common Council hereby agrees that the city of Portland shall be responsible for all costs of the project, including costs which exceed the amount of reimbursement available from the New York Bridge funding awarded to the city of Portland. Be it further resolved that in the event that costs of the project exceed the amount appropriated above, the Common Council shall, as soon as possible, appropriate said excess amount immediately upon notification by the Superintendent of Public Works, Director of Finance, or the Mayor. And be it further resolved that the Common Council hereby agrees that the city of Portland hereby commits that construction of the project shall begin no later than 24 months after award, and the construction phase of the project shall be completed within 30 months.
Question.
Yeah, just gotta move, Mr. Sullivan. Yeah, I get a second, please. Sorry, thank you, Mr. Thompson. Okay, go ahead.
So up on top, it says it may be reimbursed. And then down it is resolved that it will be reimbursed.
Right.
Do we know that it'll be reimbursed or?
Yeah, I mean, unless there was something in the paperwork that wasn't done properly, that was done. We've gone through this resolution before in the past and done it, but the federal guidelines required some of these to 10 resolve. So we had to resubmit this back over to make that credit, so we do that, but
We've written it as they said it.
exactly what they said they had to be. So when we did our last one, we missed some of those resolved, and then May meaning if we don't follow the guidelines and follow their criteria, we will not get it back. And that's why they say maybe 100% reimbursed after we expend it.
Okay.
They wanted to make sure those were clear amongst the other resolves that are in there.
Yeah, it looks like it may not cover up to 100%. Same point in time, and May is in that resolve. Do we have a run rate of how many of these are like approved? That have been approved for us, or all of them, or some of them?
I mean, for this project, I mean, is
For other culvert projects. Like
I mean, we've
that
had-
we've submitted.
I think we've done bridge project before that I'm familiar with, that's been reimbursed in its entirety, but if you decide you're doing a culvert and you wanted to, replace the sidewalk and the curb that goes out beyond that, obviously that's not gonna get paid and that has to be pulled back out.
Right.
But I think that's some of the clarification they wanted in there to make sure that it's only for that engineered study that they have.
How do we see this impacting our liquidity over the course of these 30 months?
It's some of the same, because, for example, the DRI, correct me when I'm wrong here, but I think we're up to 637,000 we've been reimbursed so far. And of the 5 million, so,
No,
and you can see how far we are out there right now.
yeah,
So it'd be nice to get some of that cash in, so that's why we're cutting our departments back and we're trying to restrict things to be a reasonable effort. On cost wise, because for our cash.
Because this one also, the time lead on this, I anticipate that we will have received, because we're looking at, the start 24 months be completed in 30 months. We're currently, waiting for almost the best part of $5 million between all the different grants that are out there. We're waiting on reimbursement in, so I fully anticipate before we get to this, we will have those come back in. And then with this being reimbursable as well, I don't have a final answer on whether this can be, some of our grants we can do, say, quarterly reimbursements kind of as we go. Some we have to wait till we're fully done, and I'm not exactly sure with this one, what the time frame of that is. But regardless, by that point, we should have the other grant monies back in from the state, so I don't think we'll have to float this one as long as we've had to with some of the others.
So if your question is, will this impact the ratings that they'll read us on again?
Well,
Yes, it could.
yeah, it could, if
That's what-
especially if New York State doesn't reimburse us the rest of our.
And those other ones are applicable payments, but it seems like we're always out, that $5 million, we're continually trying to chase.
Well,
Part of the business.
on behalf of the people who live, between the creeks where there used to be a lot of flooding, and we haven't had a big flood in a long time, because the city has done a lot of work and invested in that infrastructure. I really appreciate that we're staying ahead of this, because I can remember when we had relatively back-to-back 100-year floods.
I do.
And I remember saying, they're not 100-year floods, if they're just a few years apart. And with the rain events that have been happening around the world,
And
it's
court,
just gonna happen.
Localized flooding.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's just gonna hit us again. So I really appreciate that we are staying ahead of this as best we can.
That might throw it.
good reminder.
Anybody else? Hey, move it, please.
Councilmember Scott,
Aye.
Councilmember Silliman,
Aye.
Councilmember Pinello,
Aye.
Councilmember Lane,
Aye.
Councilmember Thompson,
Aye,
Councilmember Michaels.
Aye.
Agenda item number 5, approve special event permit and sound device permit for the YMCA Turkey Trot 5K run on November 28th, 2024.
Resolved that the city of Portland Common Council does hereby approve for issuance by the city clerk a special event permit and sound device permit without fee for the YMCA's Turkey Trot 5K run event from 8 a.m. to 11 a.m. on November 28th, 2024.
So moved.
So on. Thompson, any questions? It's a great event on Thanksgiving.
Yeah.
Are you?
We don't run it.
Well, high five on the way in. Move it, please.
Councilmember Scott,
Aye.
Councilmember Silliman,
Aye.
Councilmember Pinello,
Aye.
Councilmember Lane,
Aye.
Councilmember Thompson,
aye,
Councilmember Michaels.
Aye.
Agenda item number 6, accept and recognize donations to the Cortland Youth Bureau.
Resolved that the common council accepts the donations listed below and appropriates the funds to the budget accounts as listed. Donation from Dennis Gage in the amount of $200 for the youth lacrosse program. And a donation in the amount of $15,000 from the Yeaman Foundation for Yeaman Park upgrades.
Mr. Thompson, Mr. Scott.
So let me add the final resolve that, the common council on behalf of the mayor and youth bureau thanks Dennis Gage and the Yeaman Foundation for their generosity and support of the city's youth and recreation programs.
Yes. we do.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
That's great. The Yeamans continue on and we keep making improvements down there. We're able to do, and it's getting really nice down there. The next one is the guardhouse goes away and put a nice sign out front, so we're excited to see that. So, thank you to both of all the donors. You can get a lot, for sure. Okay, move it, please.
Councilmember Scott,
Aye.
Councilmember Silliman,
I,
Councilmember Pinello,
Aye.
Councilmember Lane,
Aye.
Councilmember Thompson,
Aye.
Councilmember Michaels.
Aye.
Okay, one of the items that was asked to update is a Parker School, so there's some formal documents here that go back through the history of what we have. So ultimately now we have two developers that I'm working with to try to work out a plan, and then one local agency that would be would probably be the one that we would offer for, and it would be a great solution. So we're hoping there more to come. We'll get some more finalized things back for some funding worked out for some of the issue items, and then try to get some of these priorities done.
was the committee convened to weigh these offers or
Yes.
hear about them?
Yes, when we get the formal offers and the final, then we'll sit down and talk about them all directly with that group. So we will not, I just want to make that clear, we'll not go any further without that group.
Right, and do you imagine that we will take it back to a larger meeting at Parker for the community?
I think so. I think it has,
That'd be a
I
good
think it would
idea.
have to be, and then eventually do that.
Okay.
What else? So hopefully that takes care of that. Any other discussion items for next meeting or anything they want to talk about? All right, then I'll accept the motion to adjourn. Mr. Scott, Ms. Lane, all in favor?
Aye.
Adjourned at 6:59. Wow.
Sleep tonight.
It could have been, I still made it under an hour.
Tomorrow.
Okay.